All right, good morning, beautiful ladies, on this lovely Thursday in class. I don't have any, we're gonna share, okay? Do you have your book with you, Ellen? Last time I gave you the book, no? Okay, so she'll have to share. Nina hopefully has. You'll need it, but you can share with Sheila or whoever. Okay? All right. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to class number 2 of our RCS course, One Wow Moment, where we each class focus on one Jewish woman in history and see how that impacted and made such a difference in the lives and the world that we live in today. So last month, we spoke about our first heroine, and her name is Sarah. She was the wife of Abraham. And in the class, we spoke about priorities and how we have to have our priorities straight and know what's going on. Does anyone have any feedback that they want to share based on things that have happened since then? Any personal anecdotes or anything like that they want to share?
Well, I actually wrote a priority on a piece of paper and I stick it on the wall right next to my dining room.
I love that.
And from every corner I get to hit the table, I can see it. But this is to remind me that I have to be priority, and my choices have to be priority for my family.
I love that. Lynn, can you see me if I sit?
What?
Can you see me?
Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna. It's easier if I sit. Okay. Good. Oh wow. Okay. Well, I sent you the recording, Michelle. So take a listen when you can. I record every class. I'm happy to send it to you as well. Yes. All right. So before we get started, jot it down on the papers I handed out, flip it over, or just think it to yourself. Think of 5 things that you did today. You woke up, you went to the bathroom, you ate breakfast, you have anywhere you want. Just jot it down. You can type it in your phone. It's just for you. What are 5 things that you did today? Little, silly, big things, whatever it is. And then next to it, you're going to write down M for material or S for spiritual. Like, for example, you woke up and you got dressed today. Was that a material thing, a physical thing, or was that more of a spiritual thing? And write down what you think it is. We'll give you guys a minute for that. If it's both, write down both. Or material, like physical. Yeah. Hold on. Somebody, let me get paper here. Dina, you have your book with you? I gave you 2, no? 1. Okay. So more books are coming. All right. So we'll share and I'm reading out loud. All right.
Of course. Yeah. Okay.
All right. When you're done, just put down your pen so I know that you're done. There's one like under the vegetable plate, if you can reach it. All right. And as you're finishing up, you had a question? Okay. This better? Okay. Perfect. All right. And now for those who got the handouts, and you may have to share because thank God this is a beautiful crowd and more than I was expecting, which is thrilling. So I'm thrilled about that. This is the best kind of problem to ever had. So you can just take a look and I'm going to read it out loud. I'm going to share with you today. All right. Don't think too deeply into this. Okay. This is like, what do they call it? A brain dump, so to say. Something like that. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down in the response to these questions, and they're on this paper right here. Okay. The first one is, I get out of bed each morning in order to write it down. Yeah. Write it down. Nothing. Don't think too deeply into this. All right. My next thought stream is, I believe that my mission in this world is, again, don't think too deeply. It's like what pops in, you know? The next one is the Jewish people are in this world to the next one is when I need advice, I turn to could be multiple. All right, the next one is I feel most connected to my Jewish identity when and last is if I had more money, I would. All right, put this on the side for now. We'll get back to it later. Okay? You can keep it. We're going to be flipping to the next page in a minute, I think. All right, let me introduce you to a special woman. Her name is Rivka. You might know her as Rebecca, the wife of Isaac. I'm going to use the words Rivka and Yitzchak for Isaac and Rebecca just because it's what I'm more familiar with. It's the Hebrew way of saying it. But just so you know, Rivka is Rebecca. She is one of our four mothers. We have four fathers and four mothers, right? Four meaning that came before us, not the number four. And Rivka grew up in the house of a man named Bisuel. Who is Bisuel? Bisuel is a nephew of Abraham, just so you get the family lineage. And this home is a place of idol worship. It's a place of corruption. It's a place of lies. All right. It's not the best environment to grow up in. And we are introduced to Rivka actually right after Sarah passes away. Sarah is Yitzchak's mother and Abraham's wife. And that's when we find out about Rivka, because what happens is after Sarah passes away, Abraham says, you know what? It's time for me to marry off my son Yitzchak. We got to continue on this legacy. We spoke last class about a legacy. This is the monotheism, the belief in one God that is being passed on to the world. It will also carry on the Jewish nation. And so he sends his trusted servant, his name was Eliezer, as a messenger to find a wife for Yitzchak. And there is a really great kids book for those who recognize this. All right. There is a great series of books. Michelle, I think we spoke about it once. There is a little boy named Avram. There's kind little Rivka. There's a little girl named Miriam who was Moses' sister. There's a shepherd of David who's King David. And it talks about these great Jewish heroes and heroines of our history in this really great book that kids can read. Yes, they're all by Dina Rosenfeld and they're all illustrated by Eileen Windletterer, which is like a very unique way of writing. And I'm just going to flip through it really quick because it really explains it well. It talks about a little girl named Rivka who lived long, long ago. And one day when she was young, she went to the well to get some water. And across the desert, a man named Eliezer loaded up a bunch of camels with lots of presents and jewelry, that everything a girl could want. And he went to find a wife for his master's son, Yitzchak. And as he's walking, obviously the desert is very, very hot. And he gets to the well and he says, how will I know which is the right girl? Right? It's a good question. I'm sure there were lots of girls at the well. How would you know which is the right girl? And he basically said that whoever gives water to me as well as to my camels. And now for those who know a little bit about camels, the way that camels are made, that they're so popular in the desert, is that camels can go a very long time without water. How? They store water in their humps, right? So you can imagine that after a long journey, the camel's not just taking a cup of water, he's taking a lot of water. And so he says, whoever gives water to me and to my camels, that is how I will know that this is the right wife for Yitzchak, because it means that she's very kind. And kindness is a very important attribute in a spouse. And it says along the way, she met a little boy, an old man, an old woman, and she helps them and he sees how kind she is. And then they get to the well. And basically he asks, can I have some water? And she says, yes, here is some water for you. And let me give you for your camels as well. I won't read you the whole book, but you can all read it afterwards. It's a great book, but it's just such a great way of saying it. And as you see, she's giving the camels and Eliezer some water. And here's all the camels enjoying their water. All right. It's a lot of camels. And Eliezer said, she is so kind. I think I have found the right wife for Yitzchak. And he gives her some presents. And that is how we say that is how Rivka became the mother of the Jewish people. And that's a really great book. I'll leave it here. You guys are welcome to look through it after. So what happened was exactly as the story is that he discovers this young woman and she is very kind and she brings him to her father's house. And there they tell him about Abraham. They know who he is as part of the family. And they mentioned that they would like to bring Rivka to marry Yitzchak. And they said, well, wait, because, she's young. And they asked Rivka, we would like you to come with us now. And Rivka agrees. And here is where we get the source that in Jewish marriage, the bride has to agree to the marriage. We can't just say, here you go, you're getting married, too bad if you don't like it. In Jewish, this is the source that a woman has to agree to the marriage. And Rivka agrees to the marriage, and she goes with Eliezer across the desert, and she is brought to Abraham's household, and she marries Yitzchak. And it says that Rivka is compared to a rose among the thorns. It's like a very common way that we talk about her. What does that mean? She was a rose. And we know that when roses grow, for those who have bouquets of flowers, what grows along the stems? Thorns. And thorns are very painful for us, but the thorns actually protect the rose. But once the rose is picked, we don't need the thorns anymore, right? Then they're a hindrance rather than a help. And so we learned from here that she was a rose and she needed to be picked before her thorns, before her father's household kind of got to her and corrupted her. So she was picked very young, taken out of that negative environment and brought to the house of Abraham and Yitzchak, where she was now not among the thorns anymore. And she got married to Yitzchak. And we learn here that Yitzchak marries her, he loves her, and he's comforted from the loss of his mother. That's what we learn here. And what happens is, for those who've heard me talk about this before, there were 3 special miracles that happened to Sarah that we actually know about, and is something that applies to the 3 special mitzvot of women today. She had a cloud that was always above her tent, and that applies to the laws of family purity, mikvah, all of that. Her challah stayed fresh week to week. The challah represents a kosher home, and her Shabbat candle stayed lit from week to week, and that is the mitzvah of Shabbat candles. And when she passed away, those miracles left. Even though her home still had very holy people in it. Abraham lived in her home. Yitzchak lived in her home. These were very, very holy people, as we know, but the miracles left. And when a young girl, and sources say that she was very young when she came, when she moved back into that home, the miracles returned. So this shows us that it needed the power of a Jewish girl and a Jewish woman, and this is why we have the custom of not only women lighting Shabbat candles, but girls starting as young as 3 years old lighting a Shabbat candle, because we see how special and how important that is to Hashem. And so even though a great tzaddik, a great holy person like Avram and Yitzchak did not have that miracle happen to them, it was only when the Jewish woman moved into the home, that is when these miracles returned. And it's a lesson for us because we are the Jewish women and we are the mainstays of our home. And we are the ones who set the tone for the home. You okay there? All right. Oh, he needs the stroller. Okay. And as a side note, I'm just going to plug it out here. We have lots of beautiful Jewish women here and on Zoom, and I would like to extend an invitation. If any women, any married Jewish women who would like to learn about the laws of mikvah and family purity, it makes an amazing blessing for your home. If you would like to learn a little bit more, please, hold on, let's just welcome in one more person. Sorry, I didn't even think about that when I locked this in. All right. So if any women, a Jewish woman married to a Jewish man would like to learn about the laws of mikvah, about the laws of family purity, hit me up after. It would be my greatest privilege to help you with this amazing mitzvah. All right. So Yitzchak and Rivka get married, and we learn that they wait 20 years before they are blessed with children. As you can imagine, this was not an easy 20 years. Okay, because to have children is a very special blessing. And this was something that was very painful for them. So we're actually going to open up our books. We're going to turn to page 31, text number 1.
Hello.
And Kathy, we're going to have you read out loud for us today. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, text number 1.
Okay, woe to the person who claims that the Torah's objective is merely to relate stories and simplistic tales. If its objective was to preserve a historical record, quotations, it is an inferior product for the world's rulers own superior historical chronicles. We could borrow material from those records and create a Torah that equals those standards.
All right, thank you
Next.
very much.
Oh,
All right,
thank
so
you.
as we know, the Torah is not just an interesting storybook. Yes, there are very interesting stories in it, and we do enjoy learning them. However, everything that is written in the Torah is there for a reason. There is no word that's extra, and every single word is there to give us life lessons and teach us different things on how to live our lives properly. So that is something that we have to keep in mind. And when we're learning about our mothers and fathers, our foremothers and forefathers, and all of the characters, so to say, that we see in the Torah, each interaction that we come across is not just a story, it's an important lesson for us to take. So we always have to put that lens on as we're discovering stories. So we're going to go to what I did was we're going to be skipping over some of the text because I actually wanted them a little bit longer. So when you see me skipping over things, it's not skipping over, it's actually just we're reading them in a little bit of a different order, in a little bit of a longer form. All right. So I'm going to read out loud because I want everyone to hear it, and we have different people in different places, and I want the volume to be the same. All right. So we're going to go to source number 1. It says here, and Isaac, Yitzchak, was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, who's Rivkah, the daughter of Besuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Lavan. Hey, pull up a chair anywhere. The sister of Lavan, the Aramean, and FYI, who is Lavan? Lavan is going to be the mother of Rachel and Leah, who marries Yaakov, just as an FYI, to himself for a wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord opposite his wife because she was barren, and the Lord accepted his prayer. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived, and the children struggled within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I like this? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 kingdoms will separate from your innards, and 1 kingdom will become mightier than the other kingdom, and the elder will serve the younger. And her days to give birth were completed, and behold, there were twins in her womb. The first one emerged ruddy. He was completely like a coat of hair, and they named him Esav. And afterwards, his brother emerged, and his hand was grasping Esav's heel, and they named him Yaakov. Yaakov, Akev means heel. Now Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to him, and the youths grew up, and Esav was a man who understood hunting, a man of the field, whereas Yaakov was an innocent man dwelling in tents, and Yitzchak loved Esav because his game was in his mouth, but Rivkah loved Yaakov. All right, let's break it down, ladies. All right, so we know that Rivkah is pregnant. She's having a tough pregnancy. The kids are kicking all over the place. She doesn't know what's going on. So she asked Hashem, what's going on? And she's told that you have 2 kingdoms in you, and they will always be fighting, and one will rule over the other. And we know that Esav and Yaakov are born. Esav was born first. Yaakov comes out holding onto Esav's heel, as we see the struggle that always happens. And Esav is born literally covered in red hair, like he looks complete. Yaakov is born as a small baby. And what happens is that Esav is a wild man. He's a hunter. He's a man of the world. And Yaakov he's a Torah scholar. He studies Torah. That's what he loves to do. And there's one mitzvah that Esav excels at, and that is the mitzvah of honoring his father. This is where he excels. He excels very much in this mitzvah. And so we're going to go to page number 36, which is text number 4. And I'm going to read it out loud. The Torah tells us that Isaac loved Esav because the game was in his mouth. The meaning of this phrase is that Esav used his mouth to prey on the righteous Isaac, meaning he duped his father with his words. You will discover that Esav committed every sin that God detests. For quote unquote, there are 6 things that God hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked thoughts, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness that breathes out lies, and he that sows discord among brethren. These are not great things, and these are things that Hashem really doesn't like, and Esav did all of the above. Whenever Esav entered the home, he would ask his father questions like, my father, is one obligated to tithe for salt? Like, am I supposed to take a 10th off for salt? Which sounds like a very scholarly question, right? Isaac would exclaim in amazement, see how scrupulously this son of mine observes the commandments. When his father would inquire, where were you today, my son? At the house of study, he would reply, adding additional inquiries. Is this not the law under circumstances? Are not these things prohibited and these permitted? Through such remarks, he ensnared his father with his mouth, and this is why Isaac loved him. Everyone with me so far? All right.
Yeah.
There's a joke. Okay. It says one day Stalin decided to go to the cinema in disguise and hear what people are really saying about him. When the newsreel comes on, the audience stands up and applauds each time he appears on the screen. Stalin is pleased. Modestly, he himself remains seated. After a few moments, the man next to him leans over and whispers, "Most people feel the same way as you, comrade, but you'll be safer if you stand up." Meaning most people don't want to stand up for Stalin, but do it anyway, right? Okay, so he was a great deceiver. Sorry? Okay. All right, he was a great deceiver. He was a really bad guy. And in fact, one of the first stories where we're introduced to the story is the day where Esav comes in from hunting. He's ravenously hungry. He's exhausted. And what is Yaakov doing? Yaakov is cooking soup. This is that famous story. He's cooking lentil soup. Why is he cooking lentil soup? Because we are told that this is the day that Abraham passed away and his father is sitting Shiva. And we have a custom that we eat round foods, the cycle of life, today bagels or a pizza or a hard-boiled egg. I guess lentils was the custom. Lentils are round. And so he was cooking lentil soup for his father. And it says, why was Esav so exhausted and so hungry? We're told that this was the first time he murdered somebody. And he came home exhausted, and we know the story where he says, "Give me food right now, I'm starving." And Yaakov says, "If you want food," well, I think he murdered someone named Eliphaz, but we'll get back to that afterwards. Because it's not part of the main story here. And so Yaakov asked for payment, and he goes, "What do you want for payment?" And he goes, "I want your birthright. I want the birthright of the eldest." Why? Because originally it was meant to be that in the Holy Temple, who would be the ones to offer the sacrifices and work in the Holy Temple? It was meant to be the firstborn son. As we know, that was plan A. Unfortunately, plan B had to happen after the sin of the golden calf, and then it became the Kohanim, from the Shevet of Levi, the priests. They were the ones, but originally this was meant to be the firstborn privilege, and Yaakov wanted that privilege. And Esav goes, "I really don't care about that. You can have it. It's yours. Here, I'll sign the paper. Give me my soup." And that is exactly what happened. So we see that Esav does not have a care for this spiritual part of this world. And when we look back at last class, we talked about looking at the bigger picture, if you remember. We looked at Avram and Sarah, who were concerned, who are they going to pass their legacy on? And they passed it on to Yitzchak. And now Yitzchak and Rivka have to see, okay, now it's our turn to pass on this legacy. Who are we passing it on to? Clearly, Esav, right? All right, so it seems like Esav is kind of rejecting a place in this amazing movement that it was. Esav was a murderer. He was a rapist. He married women who served idols. It says that Yitzchak and Rivka would be bitter from the smells of the incense they would give to the idols that existed in their homes, and it really bothered his parents. So we're going to take the story at face value right now, and we're going to go to source number 2. Guys, feel free to interrupt me. I know it's a lot of information. Is everyone with me? So, no, we're in this paper, guys. Ladies, this paper. I'm going to read out loud. This paper, source sheets. It was the one where you wrote your thought stream? Yes. Okay. We're going to go to source number 2. Any questions before we move on? I'll take that as a note. All right. It came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called Esav, his elder son, and he said to him, "My son." And he said to him, "Here I am." And he said, "Behold, now I have grown old. I do not know the day of my death. So now sharpen your implements, your sword, and take your bow, and go forth to the field and hunt game for me, and make me tasty foods as I like, and bring them to me, and I will eat, in order that my soul will bless you before I die." All right, so let's talk about this, right? What's happening here? Yitzchak is getting old. He sees that he doesn't know when, but he likely will soon pass away. And now has come the time to pass the baton, so to say, right? To pass on this legacy. And these legacies are literally giving the spiritual powers that he has to his heir. So this is a very important thing. This is not like, oh, I blessed you to have, this is a very, very spiritual, powerful thing that's going down now. So Rivka sees what's happening. What should she do? Okay. What would you do if you were in Rivka's shoes? What would you do? All right, let's keep reading. Okay. And hold your questions. You're going to have a lot of them. But Rivka overheard when Yitzchak spoke to Esav his son, and Esav went to the field to hunt game to bring it. And Rivka said to Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I have heard your father speaking to Esav your brother, saying, Bring me game and make me tasty foods, and I will eat, and I will bless you before the Lord before my death. And now, my son, hearken to my voice, to what I am commanding you. Go now to the flock, and take for me there 2 choice kids. Kids are baby goats. And I will make them tasty foods for your father as he likes, and you shall bring them to your father that he may eat, in order that he bless you before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, my brother Esav is a hairy man, whereas I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will touch me, and I will appear to him as a deceiver, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, On me is your course curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice, and go take them for me. And so he went, and he took, and he brought them to his mother, and his mother made tasty foods as his father liked. And Rivkah took the costly garments of Esav, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and she dressed Yaakov, her younger son, and the hides of the kid she put on his hands, and the smoothness of his neck. And she gave the tasty foods and the bread that she had made into the hands of Yaakov, her son. And he came to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esav, your firstborn. I have done as you have spoken to me. Please rise, sit down, and eat of my game, so that your soul will bless me. And Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord your God prepared it before me. And Isaac said to Yaakov, Please come closer, so that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esav or not. So Jacob drew close to Isaac, his father, and he felt him, and he said, The voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like the hands of his brother Esav. And he blessed him. And he said, Are you indeed my son Esav? And he said, I am. And he said, Serve it to me so that I might eat of the game of my son, so that my soul will bless you. And he served him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, Please come closer and kiss me, my son. And he came closer, and he kissed him, and he smelled the fragrance of his garments, and he blessed him, and he said, Behold, the fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of a field which the Lord has blessed. And may the Lord give you of the dew of the heavens and of the fatness of the earth and an abundance of grain and wine. Nations will serve you, and kingdom shall bow down to you. You shall be a master over your brothers, and your mother's son shall bow down to you. Those who curse you shall be cursed, and those who bless you shall be blessed. And it came to pass when Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and it came to pass Jacob had just left his father Isaac's presence, that his brother Esav came from his hunt. And he too had made tasty foods, and he brought them to his father. And he said to his father, Let my father arise and eat of the game of his son, so that your soul will bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, Who are you? And he said, I am your firstborn Esav. I am your son, your firstborn Esav. And Isaac shuddered a great shudder, and he said, Who then is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate of everything while you had not yet come, and I blessed him too. He too shall be blessed. When Esav heard his father's words, he cried out a great and bitter cry. And he said to his father, Bless me too, O my father. And he said, Your brother came with cunning and took your blessing. All right, ladies, what's all the questions? Yes. His birthright, yes. But he wants the blessing. What does one to him? What does one have to do with the other? All right, Lynn.
Mother and Yaakov were together in this. In other words, it wasn't just the mother. I mean, the mother wanted it,
She was the instigator, so to say. Yeah.
but he was also involved.
Yes.
He went along with it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I have a question for you that just occurred to me. that
Sure.
I'm learning sorry. When he's blessing, he thinks he's blessing
Esav.
Esav.
Okay, we hear you. Go ahead. Yeah, go. Yeah.
Esav.
Mm-hmm.
He's really blessing
Yaakov.
Yaakov. But wasn't about blessing the Yaakov to Esav.
You have a good question. Any other questions? I have some questions. This doesn't seem like great shalom bias over here, ladies, right? I mean, it feels a little duplicitous, right? Questions? You have questions, right? All right, let's dive in.
Question.
Yes.
That, or maybe it's an observation as I'm reading this. When at first I thought that he was duped, but actually now I'm seeing he smelled the fragrance of the field and he actually knew. what he was doing.
All right, Michelle, good. So you're actually going to bring me right now into text number 3. We're going back a text to page 35. Leslie, can you read text number 3 on page 35, written by Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, which is a very good question. Meaning we're asking, Yitzchak was a very holy man. He was a tzaddik. Could he not see what was going on? Right, we're not dealing with a simple person here.
No.
Did he not know what was going on?
Absolutely.
He may not have been good in his eyesight, but did he not know what was going on? And Leslie, let's read. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
We're doing the story at face value, which is something a lot of us have been brought up on, and we're going to go deeper now.
Could he not see that he was a man of the outdoors, a hunter, not a contemplative or a man of God? Is it conceivable that he loved Esau merely because he had a taste for wild game? Did his appetite rule his mind and heart? Did Yitzchak not know how Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of soup, and how he subsequently despised the birthright itself? Was this someone with whom to entrust the spiritual patrimony of Abraham?
All right, these are all very good questions. Did Yitzchak not know what was going on? Was he so blinded by tasty meat that he liked his son because he made him good food? Something doesn't feel right. It's not jiving, right? All right. And also think about it this way. We know that Yaakov and Esau were not identical twins, right? You can have identical twins, so they walk the same, they have the same stature, similar like that. But when Yaakov walked in the room, I'm going to imagine that when Esau walked, there was heavier footfalls, he smelled different, all of those things besides just the actual touch would have been different. So, and we know himself that Yaakov said, Yitzchak said, I feel the hands of Esau, but I hear the voice of Yaakov. So we know that Yitzchak noticed the difference. So what exactly is going on here? So let's look at our cast of characters, so to say, right? We have Esav. Esav is strong. He's a conqueror. He's a doer. He's a doer and a macher. He makes things happen. He's not the best guy, but he's a man of the world. He gets around. Then we have Yaakov, who looks like a Torah scholar. His favorite thing to do is sit in the corner. No one bother me. Let me learn my Torah. Right? He's a Torah scholar. And then we have Yitzchak. Yitzchak, as we know, was a well digger. That was one of the things that he excelled at. He would dig wells. He was someone who found the potential in everything. That was one of his amazing characteristics. He was someone who found potential. He made things happen. And then we have Rivka. Who is Rivka? She is a rose among the thorns. She knows exactly what thorns look like. She's very well versed in this. Her intuition is very strong when it comes to this. All right. So we're going to take a little detour and then get back to this. All right. So my question to you ladies, I ask this all the time. Why are we here? What is our Jewish purpose in this world? To grow spiritually. What else? To produce more Jews. To do what? All right. Why? Keep going. Yes, I like that answer. To do God's work. Go on. Anyone else?
To leave the world in a better place.
Improve ourselves. Yep.
To inspire other nations to do good.
Yes, to inspire, to be a light unto the nation, so to say, to inspire other nations. Exactly. So we're going to turn to page 38. Text number 6. And Cheryl, do you mind sharing with Allah and reading out loud for us? That's it, if you can share with her there, yeah. Text number 6 on page 38.
On earth. This physical earthly world, more than any of the higher spiritual worlds, is the place where the very essence of God's infinite light can be found. But humankind, step by step, banished that divine presence from its home, with the tree of knowledge, with the man who murdered his brother, with all those things that human beings do. Some humankind chased it away. Since humankind chased it away, only humankind can bring it back.
This world is where Hashem wants his spiritual essence to be found. And since human beings, we know with the sin of the tree of knowledge, Cain killed Hevel, all of those things that happened, since they banished it away, it is up to the people to bring it back. And this began with Abraham. That's what we know. Abraham was the first person to start this mission of bringing God's spirituality back into the world. So if we turn to text number 7 on page 39, So this is actually a commentary. It's written by Rashi, and he writes, note that Abraham did not add, and the God of the earth. Unlike his earlier quoted statement, I will adjure you by the Lord, the God of the heaven and the God of the earth. With this distinction, Abraham was saying, only now is God considered the God of the heaven and the God of the earth, because I have made him familiar in the mouths of ordinary people. However, when he first led me from my father's house, he was only the God from the heavens and not the God of the earth, for humanity did not acknowledge him, and his name was unfamiliar with the earth. So Abram was the one who kind of made Hashem's name familiar on this lovely planet that we call home. And so we know that as human beings, we like to compartmentalize things. Thank you. I got a little tongue twister there, right? We like our work life to stay at work, home life to stay at home, our Jewish life to stay here, our kids stay there, my gym stays there. We like that, right? Men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti, right? Men like everything in its place, you know. Don't like when you go to Publix and you meet your doctor there and you're like, you're not in the right place. Like you're supposed to be in the right, like when your kid, like my kids think that the teacher lives in school, so they want to go visit school at night. And I'm like, no, your teacher's not there. She has a house, and that like throws them, right? Okay, so we say like men are like waffles, I mean, and females are just like, woo, and we're like, oh, how'd we get there, right? Yeah. We all know this as very female, as females. But men like, and generally, even though we are like spaghetti, so to say, we tend to like things in their spots, right? Like leave things as they are. Hashem believes in spaghetti. What does that mean? We don't live, the world is not spiritual and physical. They're intertwined like spaghetti, exactly. And so our job in this world is to marry the two, right? Our job is like a game of hide and seek. Wow. We have to find the godliness in the physical and elevate it and reveal it. So just a very simple example, we're sitting here at a table, my laptop is open, we have plates, we have bagels, we have all of those things. And what are we doing? We're taking very physical objects that ordinarily could just be bagels and laptops and whatever, and we're learning Torah with them, and we're eating so we can get strength to learn Torah. We have taken a physical object and we have married it with spirituality, and that's what Hashem wants us to do. This was a very simple example. Sorry? Exactly. And so when we make Hashem a God of the earth, when we uncover that divine energy, when we learn to see it, that's what Hashem wants us to do. And so that awareness of doing this, that's my job. That's your job. That's our job. So a Jew is here in this world to bring heaven down to earth. That is our job. We use a material existence, so to say, to express God's presence. And we understand that everything that we do and everything that we interact with is a manifestation of Hashem. So we know that we say Jews are not in this world, they're of this world, so to say, right? And so when you go back to your list over here, all right, and you say, why did I get up this morning? Anyone, why'd you get up this morning? For real. Like, you don't have to make me all, okay, Lisa got up to come to this class. I love that. She's very spiritual. We love it. Anyone else? Lynn, why'd you get up this morning?
To walk my dog.
Okay, and why'd you walk your dog?
By the Torah, that we feed our dog, we take care of our dog, we take care of ourselves.
All right, I like that.
The thing is that I thought it was material and spiritual. Because when I walk my dog, I thank God every morning for another day.
Okay.
So it is spiritual and material.
I love that. Beautiful. All right. What do you think your mission is in this world? Anyone want to shout it out? Anyone want to shout out? What is your mission in this world? Why were you here?
To help others.
To help others, Kathy says. All right, anybody else? Michelle.
To connect people and carry out God's plan.
Beautiful. All right. If I had extra money, what would you do with it? It's okay. You would donate. Someone wants to buy something nice. Well, when we start going back into it, we see that everything is spaghetti, because when you start untwirling it all, so to say, when you have your very twirly piece of spaghetti, you see everything that we do, hopefully, is for the purpose of making this world a better place. And there's actually a great story. A Hasidic rabbi once saw two children playing. And so he showed them a little lesson. He called the Ivan, I'm saying that, Ivan, who was doing something on the road, and he called the shamash, who's the man who helps take care of the synagogue, a very simple Jewish man. And he goes, Ivan, did you eat today? Yeah. Was it good? Yeah. Why do you eat? So my belly is full. Why do you have to have your belly full? So I can do my work. Why do you do your work? So I can make money. Why do you make money? So I can go to the bar later and drink vodka. All right, Mr. Shamish. What should we call Mr. Shamish? Pick a name for him. We'll call him Beryl, okay? Beryl, did you eat today? Yeah. Are you full? Yeah. Why are you full? So I can serve Hashem. And you just, the way that you kind of unravel that all the way, why are we here? That is why I am here. I am here. I have to take care of my children. I have to go to, when I go to Publix, why am I going to Publix? To buy groceries. Why am I buying groceries? So my house has food in it. Why do I want food in my house? So my children can eat. Why do I want my children? Why? So I can raise a family that that has the Jewish value so they can continue doing that in this world. So when you kind of keep unraveling, this is where you get, and that's how our entire life is infused with purpose. Even though sometimes it feels like laundry's not fun, right? Like, we don't like doing laundry. It's annoying to sort all the socks sometimes, right? There's a reason that we do everything. And when you kind of like put that mindset on, put that spaghetti mindset on, it helps. All right, let's go back. We were on a detour, so we're going back now. All right, so we know there was a plan A. Yitzchak and Rivka had twins, 2 boys. And they were there. The plan A was they should form a partnership. And the partnership was that Yaakov would lead in Torah. Esav would be the conqueror. He would be the one to engage in the world. And they would be these partners to carry on this amazing mission that Avram and Sarah started and passed on to Yitzchak and Rivka. And if you were in trouble, you can go to Esav. If you needed help with your Torah, you can go to Yaakov. And Yitzchak sees Yaakov as a Torah scholar. He can excel and grow in Torah study. But when you look at the mission of transforming the world, who would do a better job? The sweet guy in the corner who studies Torah all day, or the conqueror? Right? Who could do that job? You need someone capable, right? And so we say Yaakov is book smart, so to say, and Esav is street smart. So let's go to page number 40. We're going to go to text number 8, and I'm going to read out loud to you. Esav was a skilled hunting man, a man of the field, whereas Yaakov was an earnest man, dwelling in tents. Jewish souls are divided into 2 branches, collectively speaking. Some devote their lives to dwelling in tents, meaning that studying Torah is their entire occupation. Others devote their energies to commerce. These 2 categories correspond respectively to the study of Torah, and to the practical performance of the commandments. As a parallel, we find that 2 of the 12 tribes of Israel struck a partnership. The tribe of Yisachar devoted its days to Torah study, while the tribe of Zebulun engaged in commerce and financially supported Yisachar's studies. So this actually really happened. One of them, they said, in your merits, I will learn for me and you. And the other one said, I will earn a living for me and for you. We have a partnership. This actually did happen. Notably, the merchants of Zebulun were given priority status over the scholars of Yisachar. Now, since the Jewish souls are divided into these 2 categories, Yitzchak believed that Yaakov and Esav were similarly divided in their paths. For Yitzchak knew that Yaakov was dwelling in tents, occupied in Torah study to the extent that the Torah was his entire occupation. He was also well aware that Esav was a man of the field. However, Yitzchak thought that Esav would embody the concept of practical commandments, in which case he would become like the merchants of Zebulun, who achieved a certain spiritual superiority over the scholars of Yisachar. Everyone with me so far? It could have worked. But Esav lost his way. Instead of engaging in the world, he fell into the world and was eaten up by the world, so to say, and the purpose got lost. We say there's a danger in being in the world, right? We've seen a lot of Jewish people like to put themselves in a corner in their little shtetl, and they surround themselves with pure holiness because they're afraid that if they go out into the world, it can pollute them. And that's a legitimate fear. And so we have that risk when you go out into the world. But when we're going to talk about now, when you have that mindset that we are not in this world, we are of this world, that's where that whole balance comes in. And so Esav fell into the world. He wasn't transforming the world transformed him. And so Yitzchak knew what Esav was and he wasn't. He knew he was a bad guy. And Yitzchak was a well digger, but he saw the potential. And we actually learned that Esav's soul came from a high, very, very, very high source. I believe even a higher source than Yaakov's. His soul came from a tremendously high source. Yitzchak saw the tremendous potential that Esav has. And he was hoping that by giving him this blessing, this would cause that potential to turn into reality, or give him like the boost, so to say. Because he was afraid that if he gives Yaakov the blessing, what would Yaakov do? He would learn a little more, which is great, but he would not be able to accomplish the mission. Don't forget, we have a mission to pass on. So he decided to take the risk on Esav and hope that the blessing would make it happen. But he did not see what Rivka saw, because Rivka grew up with thorns. She knew exactly what thorns looked like. She knew exactly what her father and what her brother was. And she knew that Esav was too far gone. He could not come back. And she was afraid that the blessing would have the opposite effect. It would give him these spiritual powers that he would use the wrong way. And she also saw something else. She saw that Yaakov had what it took to accomplish this mission. She saw that. And she saw that Yaakov was able to be the one to transform. It didn't come naturally to him, but if pushed, he could do it. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't feel natural. As we know, merging the two worlds is not natural, right? That's a hard thing to do. And it's interesting. The Rebbe explains it kind of like taking a needle and a thread and sewing, right? When you put a needle in, what do? You poke. You make a hole, right? It's painful. It's not an easy thing to do to merge the spiritual and the physical world, but it is a very possible thing to do. So we're going to turn to page number 43 on text number 12. Go ahead.
This whole idea of Judaism was that we're not supposed to ever give up on the Jewish soul. And here Rebecca, the mother, gives up on her son. She says,
I don't know if she's giving up.
well,
I don't know if she's giving up. Oh.
Your word
Mhm.
that she saw that he was too far gone, and so she decided to
I hear you. I think she thought he was too far gone, and she had divine also that he could do this mission.
we could do it better.
Yeah, that's what she saw. She saw that he could not do this mission the way that it needed to be done to make Judaism the way it is today. But it's a good question. I'm going to look into that.
So we do it all the time in our families. One kid, we know what he's capable of, and we give him more power to do it.
Right, but as parents, hopefully what we do is we look at each child's temperament and personality, and we don't give up. I mean, obviously we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, but no, I hear what she's saying is that we never say someone is too far gone.
Yeah.
I guess at that point in time, before Yitzchak was passing away, she knew that if the blessing went to what she felt was the wrong son, it could have bad effects. We do see later on, by the way, just FYI, later on, they do make up. The brothers. And interestingly, Esau's head is actually buried in the cave of Machpelah. Did you know that? Yes.
No.
Because, yes, Esau's head is actually buried. It says when he was killed, I guess someone cut off his head and it rolled into the cave of Machpelah, and his head is buried there because of the great kibbut of that he had, the honoring of his father that he had. So he merited that. Okay. It's a good question though, Michelle. I like the question. Go ahead. Of course.
Was to overcome the anxiety, the evil inclination. He was actually born with a very, very strong evil inclination, because his mission in life is to overcome it. Unfortunately, wasn't able to overcome it because he really, really strong, but as high as his strong was, his evil inclination was also
Just a strong, yeah.
just strong, and it was very difficult for him to overcome and to come through this mission.
It's a very hard thing. This is a very difficult story, and that's why we're delving into it. All right. We're gonna take questions, but I want to read this part first here. All right, so this is actually very deep. You may want to read this 2-3 times after. All right, go to text page number 43, text number 12. All right. Such is the Jews' approach to the material. This is a world which recognizes no master or authority, which relates no function or purpose to itself other than its own perseverance and growth. So he who enters this world, and enter it one must, by decree of he who invested our souls in a material body and environment, must master the Esav-like artifices of duplicity and entrapment. He eats and drinks ostensibly to nourish his physical life. He engages in business ostensibly to increase his material wealth. He builds a career and a position in the community, ostensibly to amass prestige and power. For all intents and purposes, he is a full-fledged participant in the give and take of material life. But it's only the take that he's after. When it comes to the give, he's unwilling to pay the price. Here, he's a shameless manipulator, claiming materialism's choicest bits for himself, but refusing to relate to the material on the material's terms, refusing to care, refusing to become involved, refusing to pursue it for its own sake. Read that twice. It's very powerful. All right. So we are put into this world. There's no choice here. We're here, we're born, we don't get a choice. We are here in this world. And when we are in this world, we are meant to partake in this world. Grow up good, get a job, do good things. But remember, what is our reason for in this world? And there's a really great story. A certain chassid many years ago was a very talented man, and he was a very smart person, and he was able to achieve a lot in Torah scholarship. And to earn a living, he started a business manufacturing galoshes. Anyone know what galoshes are? They don't make them so much anymore, right? Okay. But I remember they used to be very popular, and they were very popular in snowy Eastern Europe. And he became very involved in this business to a point that his business activities were consuming his entire focus, and it distracted him from his Jewish activities and being a good Jew. I mean, everyone is a good Jew, and focusing on his Torah learning and doing as he should. And when his Rebbe observed him, he said, I've often seen feet in galoshes, but I have never before seen a head in galoshes. Okay, so it's a very important thing. Don't put our head in the galoshes. Don't put our heads. Remember, why do we work? Why do we do all of that? Not so that we do it so that we can give charity. We can make a difference in the world. We can do better in the world, not so that we could just, become the top for a reason. So we say we dress, so to say, in the clothing of Esav, but don't become Esav. Just dress in the clothing. And so Rivka knew that Yaakov had to be positioned into this role. And he wouldn't naturally take it on because he was very comfortable learning Torah in the tent of Torah. In addition, not only did Yaakov have to take this on, Yitzchak has to see that Yaakov could take it on. He can take on the role of Torah scholar and the world conqueror, so to say. He can engage in both. And that's why this quote-unquote game had to be played. So he put on the clothes of Esav, but he spoke like Yaakov. He had to walk this fine line. And this is a very big risk. We say Yaakov said, I'm afraid. What if he realizes that he curses me? Yaakov was afraid. But he had to do this. He had to take that risk because that risk shows that he is ready to play on this world stage. Is he willing to risk anything and everything for the mission? Is he ready to show self-sacrifice to merit this blessing? Is he willing to wear the clothes of Esav for this transformation? And we know that he does, because he does go through with it. And how does Yitzchak respond? He goes, I hear the voice of Yaakov. I hear it. I hear how he uses the name of God, but I feel the clothing of Esav. So Yaakov can wear the clothing of Esav, and he can participate in this transformation that we all need, that this thing has to be passed on to. And that is why Yitzchak gives him the blessing. And it's a beautiful blessing. And it's actually a blessing that we recite every Saturday night after Havdalah. There's a special blessing that's called V'yiten Lecha, and we actually read it in that blessing. And you see, Yitzchak never regrets. If you know, we read it before. He doesn't regret, oh no, I gave the blessing to the wrong sons. He doesn't say that. He doesn't regret or get angry about it, because even though Esav, we know, is furious, and we know what happens afterwards, because he said he realizes this was the right person to get that blessing. And we know we can't get a blessing that doesn't belong to us. Who said, Michelle, was it you? Someone said, like, how could it be that the blessing went to you said it. Okay. You can't get a blessing that's not meant for you. Clearly, this was meant for him. Mm-hmm. So now we have the answer to that. Okay. All right. So Yitzchak now sees exactly what his wife wants him to see, that Yaakov can do it and Esav will not be able to do it. And now this is understood. Any questions? You're with me, ladies? Okay, good. All right. So now the question is, what about me and you? Me and you. All of us, right? We have to learn from Rivka about this transformation, because we are the seamstresses of the world, right? We have to have to sew the two together all the time. Everything that we do, we're constantly sewing the two. We're taking our physical and sewing it with our spiritual. So even though we tend to like everything waffly, everything in its little slot, so to say, we have to remember that my Jewish self is my regular self. It's all one. And the Torah is our blueprint for our life. Okay, it's not like this is the Torah, this is my life, and we're going to keep them separate. No, the Torah is the blueprint for my life, and everything that is in the Torah connects to my everyday life. And so Yaakov had the Torah guiding him. He wore the clothing of Esav, and we can do the same because we know the Torah has the truth for everything. It's all one reality. Everything is divine. And so we're living in a very, very, very powerful time in history, as we well know. Okay? We can live in this world. We can wear the clothes, quote unquote, of Esav, and we can transform the world like we've never done it before. But you have to remember, we are here to share, not to just take. And if you go, where was that? On page 17, so it's over here. So there's a very interesting story. There was a chassid who lived in the late 1870s, and he was a very wealthy business person. And in those days, the big capital of business was St. Petersburg. And so in those days, chassidim used to wear a long black coat. That was their traditional garb. They would wear long black coats. And when this person would go to St. Petersburg for business, he would dress more fashionably. He would wear the short fur jackets, I guess, that were fashionable at that time. And he felt like conflicted in himself. Like, I feel like I'm not being truthful because when I'm in Petersburg, I wear this cute, nice jacket. And when I'm with, my Rebbe and in my hometown, I wear the long black coats. And I don't feel like I'm being very truthful to myself. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wear the little jacket at all times so that at least I can be myself all the time. And that's what he did. And he comes and he sees people looking at him, but he's like, no, I'm showing them this is who I am. So he comes to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gives him a look, and he explains to him, the Rebbe, no, this is what I do. I don't want to deceive him. And he goes, before I thought that you were a chassid with your long black coat, and you were just putting it on for show when you went to Petersburg. But now I see you were just putting on the chassid coat for show because this is who you want everyone to see you as. So we have to remember very carefully, who are we? Who are we portraying ourselves to be? And that is a very important thing to remember. All right, and there's just one more story that I wanted to end off with. There was a very special chassid. His name was Rabbi Mendel Futterfas. We've spoken about him before. And he was living in Russia under Stalin, and he was sent to Siberia, to the prison camps. And he was there for, I believe, 14 years in hard labor camps. As you can imagine, this was not a very nice, happy existence, as you can imagine. And they're sitting around one evening, all the prisoners, and they're complaining. He goes, I used to be a doctor, and I would be able to help people. And then they decided that I was doing anti-Stalin activities, so they threw me into prison. Another one goes, I was a professor in this prestigious university, and I was able to enlighten all the young people in today. And each one goes around, each one was this big professional, big scholar, writer, whatever it is, and they all are living there, and they're all miserable because their life's purpose has been taken away. And they said, Reb Mendel, why are you not depressed? And I believe Reb Mendel had a very successful business before. He wasn't just a chassid, he was a very successful businessman, and now he's sitting in prison. He goes, no, why are you not depressed? He goes, listen, before I was arrested, I was a chassid, and I'm still a chassid. So I'm doing it in a different place, but I'm still the same person. So we have to remember that. Who are we? Underneath all the layers, who are we? I am a Jew. I'm not just a Jew, I'm a Jewish woman. And I have a very special mission in my life. Yes, I wear many hats. All of us wear many hats, and we all have different hats and similar hats. But underneath, why are we here? What am I doing all of this stuff for? And when you get back down to it, that is what we have to remember. Okay, be careful when we're wearing the clothes of Esav that they are just the clothing. They don't define who we are. So if we go to page 44, we're just going to quickly review. Yes. Also, when you see somebody else, exactly. Look, exactly. Yes. Yes. All right. So we're going to go to page 44. Our biblical narrative. Number one, while reading the narrative of Isaac and Rebekah, we must recall that they were spiritual giants. We can understand Isaac's plan to bestow the blessing on Esav in terms of the Jewish nation's unique mission. Number two, Jewish tradition implies that Isaac was deceived by Esav, but a careful reading of the Torah and our sages' commentaries demonstrates that he was not fooled. Number 3, the Jewish mission is to bring heaven down to earth, to infuse the material world with godliness. Number 4, Isaac desired to bless Esau because his heavy engagement with materiality put him in a prime position to achieve this mission. Number 5, Rebecca understood that Esau was incapable of managing this mission. He was too enmeshed in the materiality to introduce anything divine to it. Number 6, Rebecca insisted that Jacob could do the job. He kept his head above materiality and could don Esau's cloak of material engagement to the extent required for bringing godliness into the world. What are our life lessons? If you engage in material pursuits while remembering that your pursuits do not define you, you will succeed in remaining above the quicksand of materiality. If a facet of your life conflicts with Judaism, you should realize that you can play the role without letting the role define you. And I literally was on my phone last night and scrolling Instagram, which I tend to do. And I came across something and I was like, whoa, because it literally ties to this lesson. And I'm going to show it to you right now. And actually the woman who wrote it actually gave a hold on one second, I'm going to show it to you. Why is this connecting? Hold on. All right, I am going to turn off the Zoom now. Thank you,
Okay.
ladies, so much for
Thank
joining.
you. Good
Any
Shabbos.
questions, comments? You know where to find me.
Okay, great class.
All right.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Take care.